that the previous Board of County Commissioners, the Gardner Board, when they decided to build the wastewater treatment plant and forward fund Oakdale High School, and we have $300 million of debt, which was based upon the impact fees from having 1,500 homes built a year. And now, all the taxpayers are paying for that bad deal.
So the question becomes, why would we continue to do something that does that?
Why did we forward fund those things when we could have redistricted or something like that to take care of that immediate impact?
Because the state IAC suggested that we start asking for 2 schools a year because of the rate of growth that we had. And we pushed for that, and we got that from the Board of County Commissioners at that time. So it was their push and their suggestion, given the amount of growth that we have going on, that we do that and forward fund the schools.
So,
And that's been the
one of the
way of doing
answers to your
business since
questions
the
then
90s.
is to do all age restricted so that we don't have to worry about schools.
And you know what, age restricted is kind of like a really interesting concept to think about, because the operating budget for age restricted is very different. You don't have the cost of education services. Sometimes you'll have 1 car instead of 2 cars. People are often retired, and so they're not driving down the road and congesting the roads even further. So, you know, when this development first started, it was age restricted, and I think it got some support.
And it quite a bit of support.
Right, when they changed it over to a development that would impact the schools and impact the roads and impact the commutes, and that's when they started getting private.
So as we stated earlier, we have the biggest increase in population is going to be the elderly. So if we can move developments more towards age restricted, then it should help alleviate some of those things in terms of, because you're still going to get the school impact fees.
So are you saying that's still an option that's out on the table?
Actually, it's 55 and younger.
Right.
What did I say?
You said the elderly.
Oh,
He's saying 55 and younger. What really is, your point is 55 and over.
yes.
Well, that's what you have.
And that's different. So is that an option that's still on the table?
We did discuss that earlier.
You didn't though, that's the whole problem.
Well,
You didn't
no,
discuss
I
it
did.
with us, though.
I did, because I stated what I would like to see. In terms of a political decision sitting on the dais, I was very clear what I did.
First of all, I just want to make 2 quick points. First of all, you're talking about how you'd like to see a solution. You'd like to harness our energy to go after the state to say, how about build the road?
I'd like to.
You like our cooperation.
Could you give her the opportunity to?
You like our cooperation. I can respect that. I think for you to get that, I would suggest that at council, you represent the people of Monrovia who are against this, against MTC, rather than the people who are in favor of it. Because Monrovia, despite your winning the election, voted 70% in the primary against Blaine Young, which was a pretty good statement, you know, that it was against MTC, no matter how you cut it. And just ask the people in this room for a show of hands. But anyway, I'm not going to argue that. We all know it. I just want to cut through that. That's a fact. Okay. My second suggestion is that if you start representing this group of people, then they'll work with you to find a solution. And maybe if we could get around the whole lawyer legal stuff, and this is what was discussed or was allowed to be discussed, and I can understand that you have all those rules. That, you know. Keegan Air and Fitzwater were just trying to make a suggestion of something that could be discussed. If it could just be discussed, making it 55 plus, maybe something could actually be solved if we could just get the lawyers out of it. I mean, I'm not going to get into the whole thing about Paul Rose and stuff. You know, he's a person too. But why can't you, for example, just ask Stanley, who is sitting right there, if he would consider making it all 55 plus, if he would consider making the whole thing smaller, he would get his development, Monrovia might be able to live with it, and you could brainstorm and actually have a discussion and go in a direction.
I think one thing that with the MTC is, in the whole lower part of the county, is what's going on, is it value added? Is it adding value to the lifestyle of the people? The lawyer mentioned that area had been zoned since 1950 to be a growth area. But nobody sitting in this room, and we've lived here since 72, something like that, thought of it with an R3 rating and 55 and 60-foot buildings. Nobody envisioned that. I envisioned the same kind of development that I'm in. Got a nice piece of property. As soon as I moved in, I put a garden in. And I think that's what most of the people down that way like and want. The green space. Now, if you want to be able to walk for the Snickers bar, and we all know where that came from, move to Urbana. You've got, so if you want to grow the county that'll handle that, take your Urbanas and keep expanding them. But leave the green valleys green.
My name's Charlotte Baker, and I live in Lake Lebanon, and I moved there in 1989. It is a planned unit development. It is extraordinarily well managed, and we pay for everything ourselves, including all of our amenities, in addition to our taxes. And we are currently fulfilling the designer's intent because we're almost built out. And at that time, he envisioned us becoming a municipality. But what I stood up to say was, when I came here to say was I was so excited because this is where I'm living now, my 32nd house. And it is, the last 12 have been substantial homes where, you know, you have a house and you're planning on staying and you're working there. So I am really excited because this conversation that I'm hearing, I've heard so many times before. I started out in Washington, D.C. I actually grew up on a beef, cattle, and dairy farm, a very huge one in Garrett County, near Oakland, Maryland, also near Deep Creek Lake. And both of my granddads had huge farms there. And by marriage, I moved away. And every single time when I went to D.C. and bought a house, it got so crowded in the neighborhood where I was, and all of this I heard. And then I moved to Bethesda, the same thing. Then I moved to Gaithersburg, same thing. And Gaithersburg, by the way, is extraordinarily well managed if you want to know about a city that's well run and grows and has industry and things to do and businesses. And then Germantown, and then Lake Lebanon. And I love all the people here. I love the farming district. I love all of it. And I'm so excited because we've had 10 dead years where everything is atrophied and it's all sucked in and dried out. And now we have our meetings again and we have good, cool things happening. And we also have growth because of housing. And I have to tell you, I have seen this growth happen to the point where I know it must be some sort of a natural progression, even though my granddads didn't care for it, and I didn't either. Each time I moved and lived someplace for 10 years, then I moved on. I liked the new place. I liked the kind of autonomy, and I liked having a say. And I've been the Covenant Compliance Committee Chair. I've been the treasurer on the Budget and Finance Committee for Lake Lebanon. I've been their treasurer for several years, their vice president, their president, many years ago. So I love this whole community, and you people are wonderful people. And this is a wonderful get-together because it has promise for the future. And that's what I like.
One quick thing before,
Just
as long as it's fine, we,
what Val Dale said about 30 to 40,000 houses in the pipeline is on the Frederick County website, so you can go right there, and that validates what she said.
I always do my homework.
pardon me,
I always do my homework.
Validated.
just want to make sure it's countywide. Very, very quickly, and I was waiting this question, where'd she go? I will, let me ask you this of the folks here. If Mr. Stanley was absolutely, if he would be willing to make it age restricted, and
I
work
think we need
towards.
to ask something first, though, because Mr. Stanley made it very clear at his last community meeting that the market is the market, and he is not guaranteeing that the 55 and older will stay, even the park that it is now will stay 55 and older. So there's no guarantee that he wouldn't go back for 10 years later with a new political body and ask for it to be.
There's always that risk, and there was that risk if it was originally done that way. We can't deny that. That
Well,
would be.
that's not a really good place to be.
No, it's not a good place to be, but you've heard some things that do exist in this situation. You've heard that from some folks that, that the process was followed, things did occur with, where that goes, we ran out of it too. I will get, we got time, we have time. But my question is, if Mr. Stanley were to agree to that, and we were to come to some agreement, the other thing that I'd like that is, because the council would have the ability, I think, to go back in and say, well, how about we bring some more commercial or light industrial and to bring more business into that part of the county, to have people live and work in their communities. But to really honestly have that discussion, then I need some kind of affirmation from folks to say, yeah, you know what, we can work with that. So I think it's important also as a county that we honor what we say we're going to do, and we honor our plans, and we honor the process. And we can have some arguments about some things that may not have been perfect, but the process was followed, and I, for one, do not want to throw the county employees under the bus. And one second, this gentleman has been very.
Thank you. Jason Salvatore, I live in Monrovia. The counselor before was talking about these houses. There's a very big difference between building houses on acre lots and throwing up 5,000 square foot homes on less than quarter acre lots. There's a huge difference in that. And I think that's probably the biggest argument that most people have in this room. You're talking about, whatever, 20, 30,000 homes getting thrown up in an area. And I work in D.C. I looked in Montgomery County, and I'll be honest with you, Montgomery County's a dump. That's my personal opinion of it. We looked in Rockville, and we looked all over the place. My wife and I settled in Monrovia because we had an acre and a half, we had our garden, and we could raise our children in an area that we know is going to be special. And I think that that's really important for people to understand, because the people that live here and move up here, we lived in Urbana for a year, and 6:30 in the morning, I've never seen more stressed out people driving to and from work because they've got $800,000 houses and they got to go work there 14 hours a day. People live over in Monrovia, they live there because the sense of community, and they live there because they don't want to deal with that. They want to have a nice yard with a nice garden. And the Monrovia Town Center in Lansdale does not remotely fit into that. And you were saying before, Councilman, you were talking about small businesses. I'm just kind of perplexed as how for small businesses, but we're lining the pockets of these 1% developers that are developing this land. Farming is a unique thing. We need to get a lot more younger people into farming. There's a huge industry there that is completely untapped. Organic farming. I mean, if you've been to a farmer's market in Baltimore or Washington, D.C., or the surrounding areas on Saturday, there are thousands of consumers buying because they don't want to go buy the crappy meat at Giant that's been processed and contaminated. They want to go to a local farm like Hedge Apple Farm over in Buckystown. You go there on Saturday, and there's 5 people in there spending more money on quality meat. And there's an opportunity. People in the council, we should be educating our kids about farming, about preservation of land, instead of building, 6,000 square foot houses that people are taking 40-year mortgages out, and they're supposed to be debt slaves for the rest of their lives. We're making the same mistakes, building $500,000 houses and selling to people in Monrovia Town Center. People can buy whatever they want. I personally would never buy it. But buying a $550,000 house in Monrovia Town Center is nice for the county because they can write that. Every year you're going to get that tax bill. It's going to be $7,000 or $8,000, and that's how they're going to build. That's how they're going to build the roads. Is they're going to raise everybody's taxes. They probably won't say that, but that's the only way they're going to do it. So, but I will say, if you go through Monrovia and we talk about the schools, and the schools are very important to me. If someone from the county council came to me and said, you know what, for an extra $750 a year you're paying taxes, a lot of this could be solved. I'd be happy to write a check for that.
appreciate your comments, but in terms of how people use their land, I'm more of a free market guy, so I'm not.
So am I, and property rights are property rights, and I'm all
So I'm not
property
going to
rights.
make it
But when you're-
welcome that they should turn it. I agree with you in principle about what are those good things that you said.
But, Tony, what do you mean by that? When you just said.
So I mean, that would be great if you could have someone there to do that and turn something into an organic farm. But I gotta ask you the question. Is the farm value the same in the free market? So that's not for me to answer that, but that's the facts, correct? Is the value there the same
Yes.
in an organic farm?
Okay,
As
so
it
let me
is.
just counter
I
that
I just,
with
and I
something.
don't, because we're running out of time, so I
Okay,
do want to.
and Mr. Stanley bought Wilkins' property, right? Or has a contract based on whatever kind of agreement.
No idea.
So he did that as an investment. Do we guarantee him any kind of return? I bought Enron. Does anybody guarantee me a return? Same gamble. Okay? No different.
Well,
I don't care how much he spent to try to develop it. You don't care how much I bought in Enron. I don't owe him anything. He doesn't owe me. You are dealing with a whole,
I know
you're
that
dealing
this will
with
not be
an
popular.
area and
I don't care if he's a millionaire
livelihood
or he
of
makes
people.
$100. I do not judge a man by how much money he has and how much money he makes his business. Because I'll take that personally, because I have clients that say to me, oh my gosh, you make how much money on this? How much are you making for that? Well, if you don't want me to make that, then don't hire me. It's irrelevant how much money I make. It is irrelevant how much any developer or anybody makes. Yes, it's a risk, but we have a responsibility as a government when we create rules and regulations and we follow through with them, and the people who come in here and say, I want to do business here, and they follow them. When they follow them, we need to respect them. We might not like them. I'm just, but, I'm not gonna hide behind something and say, when that argument is just incorrect. But I'm gonna, hold on, folks, because if we have to extend it, I'll.
May I just get 20 seconds? I have a slightly different point to make. And
Well,
that
hold
is-
on, just give me a show of hands of who would like to talk, and we have 4 minutes before they kick us out. That's tough. I tell you what, because they're gonna kick us out of here, it's gonna be done, and we still have to clean up. So, you have had the opportunity to talk, who has not spoke this evening? Very quickly, you each get 30 seconds.
Very quick, Bill Wilkham is 78 years old. His father bought the farm in 1945. He called me and asked me to come up here because of his health. Jerome Wilkham is 81. Are they supposed to work on that farm until they drop dead?
No.
Can they sell and retire? Why don't the people of Monrovia take them out in time to a post and take a hose and just beat them to death? And get the misery away. Since 1945, how many people have lived in Monrovia since 1945 or bought a house there in 1945? The
How
Wilkham
many
family
people
went there.
here pay taxes in
Hold
Franklin
on.
County?
Yes,
Let's
sir.
start with that. That's what's relevant. It's not
Folks.
how long you lived here.
Yes.
It's how
Hold on.
much you care about your environment. I
Why
mean,
don't you go to the courthouse and see how much Mr. Wilkins pays
it's not
taxes
about
for
that.
his
Our fight
property?
isn't with Mr. Wilkham, it's with Mr.
Okay,
Stanley.
can you, back here, please?
I just have a quick comment. After you have an opportunity to think about what you've heard today, I'm wondering if you'll write an LTE to the newspaper of what you've heard today and sort of a reaction. So that a lot of times you have these meetings, and I've been to them in town, and a lot is said, a lot of good things have said, a lot of comments and things like that, and then it just goes flat. And I'd be interesting to hear your comments after you've heard them, and then you kind of write them.
I will consider that, and I'll be just honest about the talk. I'll be very careful about writing anything in the paper, only from the standpoint of where this is in the process. Mr. Morgan?
I appreciate that people have lived here a long time, and you and I have lived here a long time too. We're younger than Welcome, so we can't rate. But it's really this whole situation we're here about is the impact that's affecting all of us. Now, a lot of people are saying the impact about my taxes. You and I might talk about the impact of what's going to happen to Route 75. I mean, we were told here in Urbana at the high school that they envision this will be a 4-lane divided highway. I mean, what do you see as a 4-lane divided highway? You know, 270, 70, going through Green Valley Road? Okay, so, all right, maybe it's gonna go behind your house, probably in front of ours, you know, the Smith's house, that's probably gone. But, you know, I mean, that is a huge impact. And, you know, so there, you know, as the great lady over here was telling us of all the you know, you're building, but it's, you know, you're impacting, you know, our schools and our infrastructure, and we're really working at a deficit. And so, you know, I'm sorry, but, you know, there's some things, you know, business is business, and, you know, you try to make a profit, but, you know, if you had a business that was pumping out toxic waste, and finally somebody says, you know, you can't do that, well, that was part of your, you know, problem of running that business,
I'll
so.
give Mr. King one opportunity to comment, and we're gonna have to.
My name is Bob King, and I'm a town councilman from Mount Airy, and we're just in the corner of Tony's district there. We're at the very end. I don't know if you know what courage it takes to do what Tony's doing here, knowing he's gonna come in this room, everybody's loaded for bear. And Tony, I'd like to thank you. And I think everybody... This is the way that local government is supposed to work. Thank you.
And to that end, I will consider doing this again in August, so that everybody's comments can be heard, if everybody's amenable to that.
Before September 1st.
We'll make it in August, we'll find it. And so, very quickly, 'cause
Very quickly. I just want to thank you for being here. I live in your district. I live in Lake Linganore, in one of the villages south of the lake. Lake Linganore, just so you all know, in terms of size, is so big it actually crosses into Jessica Fitzwater's district, District 4, to the north of the lake. We are sort of represented, well, we are represented by both Tony and Jessica. And one of the things we're doing with the municipal incorporation idea, the thought behind that is so we can have a unified government over all of our community of Lake Linganore. In case anybody's heard about reasoning behind doing that, there's obviously tax advantages, and one, you know, we could deduct part of our dues that we pay now and that kind of thing. But anyway, I was hoping to solicit your support for the idea of the municipal incorporation.
I'm in support of it because it gives you the control that these folks don't have. And that's the truth. I mean, that's one of the things in the option in the future is to incorporate the areas so that it gives the municipality the control over their development. I actually support that. And ma'am, just very quickly, then we have to.
Okay, very quickly. Mr. Stanley, I would like you to consider thinking outside the box. By that I mean, please, the smile that you have is very difficult to talk to you because we're serious over here.
I am too, I'm listening to you.
Okay. Take into consideration